like always, we're going to have a special guest tonight coming here to talk live. But before we do that, I'm going to just have to ask you for a second because I have to make sure everybody sees us. We want to make sure that everybody has the ability to be part of this event. And we are doing it right now. There you go. That was it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to all of you, brothers and sisters that are watching. Tonight we have a very special guest. For the first time, we have a very special guest in the room. His name is Mr. Rick Mehta. Thank you for being here, Mr. Rick.
Well, thank you for having me, Edison. It's my pleasure to be here and join you today.
No, it's my pleasure, believe it or not, on behalf of a lot of truck drivers and everybody that is out there sacrificing their lives and taking chances day by day with this pandemic that we're facing right now. You know, we want to say thank you for yourself taking the chance to be here. I know you have a very busy agenda, and I don't want to talk too much. Before I go into things that matter that we need with the truck drivers, I want to give you a little time for you to explain what you're doing, who you're running for, what you're planning to do. A little brief history about that so the people that are watching us can see us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for having me, and a really big shout out and kudos to all the truck drivers that are staying out there and getting their job done so that we can live, and continue in our lives. So really thank you, thank a trucker and for their bravery. So I'm Dr. Rick Mehta. I'm running for the United States Senate here in New Jersey. I'm the Republican front runner. Look, Edison, my story is probably very similar to many of your constituents in your association. My father came here through the legal process 50 years ago. He immigrated here from India. And, he didn't know anybody in this country. He came here to JFK, took the bus to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and he opened the phone book and called an Indian-sounding name, and they took him in. Gave him a hot meal and a roof over his head, and that's how our story started, through hard work, humble beginnings, and the belief that the American dream is available to anyone willing to chase it. And he met my mother at Temple University. They fell in love, got married, and similarly, I went to Rutgers University. Went to pharmacy school. I met my wife there more than 20 years ago, but we've only been married for 10. It's because she made me chase her for 10 years. And so we have 3 kids. We have 3 boys. We live in Morris County. And, like I said, I went to pharmacy school. I started my career as a pharmacist. But we had to work hard. My parents worked 2 jobs. My mother, too, she worked 2 jobs just to make sure that we made ends meet. We didn't grow up rich. We came from humble beginnings, and but really feel fortunate that we've been able to live the American dream and really be a success. And from pharmacy school, I went to law school at Rutgers. And from there, I went to the FDA, where I fought against pharmaceutical companies that were marketing illegal drugs. Worked on supply chain issues, which I know we'll talk about a little bit later. And worked on compliance to reduce the price of drugs, make it healthcare more affordable, make prescription drug prices more affordable. I've been overseas on behalf of the government to fight against our counterfeit drugs and other threats to our supply chain. And when I came back, I started my own businesses after I left government. So now I'm a biotech entrepreneur. I've started a company actually focused on antibodies, and actually we're in conversations right now to see how we can help out with this coronavirus crisis that we're going through. And I also own a medical licensing company, and so I'm also a law professor. So I've done many things, but really my background is understanding regulations and how they could potentially hurt us and how they keep us from achieving. Sometimes they keep us from achieving our dreams, and they don't tie back to what the intended goals are. But really, the focus here is to talk about the truck drivers, the good things that they're doing, and how we can help to promote the industry and help to promote entrepreneurs, independent owners. So thanks for having me again.
Thank you. Thank you one more time. And I'm going to keep saying thank you. And I'll tell you why. In my humble career of being a community activist, I've been asking many politicians over the years to give us an opportunity to have a voice. Unfortunately, due to the fact that for antitrust reasons that we all talked about it before, we never have the chance to be part of anything as a group because we can't belong to a union. And since we don't have a union representative that can talk on behalf of ourselves, it's really hard to reach to these places where we need the ability to get the word that we need, the things that we need out there. Now with you here, I just want to let you know on behalf of all the people that are watching over there, we have a lot of problems. We have a lot of problems. But at this moment, the problem that I'm really concerned, being that we've been already in other disasters like 9/11, Katrina, Sandy, is that we never have a safety net for ourselves.
Right.
And at this moment, it's no different. I mean, in a conversation that we have a couple of minutes, or in the last time that we have a phone conversation, I was explaining to you that right now the programs that they have available from minor, small companies or small private, small independent owners, we don't qualify for any of those supports. And it's amazing how they all bragging about us names, support the truck drivers, give food to the truck drivers, give water to the truck drivers, They are in the road, sacrificing themselves and their family to keep providing everybody else with what we need. But we don't have the more essential part. If one of our truck drivers gets sick, we don't even have a place where they can go tested without doing the lines. You know what I'm saying? We talk about healthcare. This is something that is really hard for some of these ones because of the industry. We haven't had an ability to create some things like that. So we want to make sure that with your help, maybe in the future, if you get elected, which you're going to work hard for help you achieve that, we can create that voice. So these drivers, these independent drivers that are working really hard out there, can have an ability to get everybody the chance to see that we have a voice, that we have needs that need to be taken care of, not in moments of emergency, but after these moments are gone. Don't put us up in a pedestal right now, and when everything is gone, and hopefully it's gone soon, we go back to being behind the scenes. Nobody pays any attention to us.
Yeah, I think it's important, the point you noted, and for those that are calling in that are not part of this industry or want to learn more about what truck drivers do, you mentioned a key word, which is independent. And, I think that's important because most of these truck drivers are not affiliated with a particular company. They're actually, they're small businessmen and women, right? They're owners, small business owners.
Yes.
And so I think that's an important notable point because, as a small business owner comes a lot of additional things that you have to do. I myself also, like I said, I'm a small business owner, and it's tough, right? Because a lot of us may know our trade well. I'm a pharmacist, or I'm a lawyer, I know my trade well. You're a truck driver, you know your trade well. But you may not know the ins and outs of, having a business. And people sometimes forget that those that are independent truck drivers also have to appreciate how to run a business too. And that is what our country was founded on, especially in New Jersey, when 1/3 of us are minorities and immigrants coming from somewhere. Living the American dream was owning your own business, right?
And that's the good thing about this. This is actually one of the industries that we're fighting a lot, talking about regulations. They want to, regulate who's independent and who's not, and that affects you because they want to pass right now laws where they want to reclassify independent drivers that don't meet those requirements. So, those are another fights that we still have pending. They haven't gone through yet, but they're still pending. They're going to go into Trenton to see if they can pass it. So we have different fights. And right now, the fights that we have regulations. Talking about regulations, we went to electronic logbooks. Over here in the port area, we were forced to change our old trucks for new trucks. So we've been trying to keep up with all these regulations. We understand what regulations, and we agree with some of that because it's for the benefit of the health of the whole community. But at the same time, I'm going to give you something that everybody want me to talk about. We still have rates from 30 years ago. And people don't understand how can you have a truck that costs almost $150,000, the value of a house, and you still have rates from 30 years ago. Yeah. So those are the things that they are frustrated because we can't change. The government come out and help us by saying, okay, we're going to have, we're going to have, I'm going to give you, Richie, a moment to tell you what the questions are in a second. So we're going to have, we have a lot of things they are against us, and unfortunately, because of the lack of the voice that we never have the opportunity to say we agree or we disagree with some of those things. We have a lot of very uh, smart people working in this industry, but they never have the opportunity to come out with an idea to say, listen, this can work. Everything is related to the transportation industry is based with people that have college degrees. They've never been in the field, never understand what is to go through. They don't understand the lines. They understand that they create pollution, but they don't understand how do they create pollution. So they say, okay, let's put more expensive trucks out on the roads, but they don't understand that those trucks need a certain amount of things. So it's a lot of to reach with all the problems that we have, we can spend here maybe 10 hours. And the thing is, right now, it's things that can be done. And I hope that eventually in the future you can help us with these things. And the thing is that we want, as independent drivers, that people are asking me is, are they going to forget about us? And I have to ask you this because they ask me, is he going to come to help us now? And once he gets elected, is he going to forget us? And I tell you,
no, that would be Cory Booker. And for those that are watching right now, I am the Republican frontrunner running against Cory Booker. So for me, I represent, but I do want to comment on that because I think that's important. I'll tell you right now, no, I will not forget about you, and I'll tell you why. Because my story is the same as many of the stories of the people that you represent, and you never forget where you come from. Now, I'll tell you right now, as an attorney and a pharmacist, my background is in regulatory law, or what I like to call deregulatory law. And I say that because what I've found throughout my entire career, and I've worked in many different facets, is that oftentimes regulations, as a general comment, don't tie back to their intended goal. Rather, they end up becoming another form of taxation. Right? So you pay out, just a quick example, you pay a permit fee, whatever it is, environmental fee, all that fees are collected by the government, and then it's set up to support a particular program, right? And if that program currently exists, then then those fees continue to have to be collected. So what impact does it have to you? And then do those regulations actually tie back to what their intended goals are? And usually regulations are to help protect safety, help protect health, help protect, let's say environment, whatever the case is. And then when you actually look at it, is it really doing its job? And that's the question we need to start to ask collectively.
And these things, like I say, listen, we're going to go, I think all the questions that Mr. Ritchie has over there, it has to do with what we're going to be talking. We want to protect Mother Earth. We're facing something that comes from Mother Earth right now. We don't know how strong it's going to be, how it's going to affect us. So we got to make sure that if we go through this and everything passes, and we can win this battle that we're going through, we want to make sure that nothing like this happens ever again in the future, for the best of our kids and everybody else. But at the same time, we got to understand that how can we manage to achieve this goal without attacking just a specific group? And that's the hard part. That's why we have to make sure that we understand the driver voices, because those are the only ones that are affected. And I'm not just talking about the poor drivers, and this is the good thing about this, Mr. Ricky, is that we have a severity of different groups, from Miami to Washington to Maryland, all the way to California. They are going through the same things. They need to have a voice. They are fighting to stay in business. Those are the ones that are fighting right now to keep this country going, pushing against all the ads, pushing about having rest areas closed, pushing about having no place where to take a shower, no place where to eat, to keep everybody else healthy by having food in the shelters, medicine in the hospitals where they need it. And those are the ones that we don't want them to forget. This is something that we want to make sure. I've been asking for things where we can go and have these drivers taking care, and they refuse. We have something. We'll give you a phone number. But they don't understand. You're driving. You're not supposed to be driving and using the telephone. That's a regulation that was put in place because of safety.
Right.
And I understand that. So at what time in a day a driver can be able to sit down in a telephone number when he's driving? So this is the kind of situations that put you to understand. Do you really understand what is a truck driver position in reference to this kind of stuff? And this is the thing that we're going to be fighting over here. And Richie, you have a question from all the people. You can read it for me, it will be nice.
Okay, what is your opinion in regards to environmental laws and the regulations that are pertaining to the trucking industry?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a big question, and it's very important because obviously, there are certain regulations that we have to have, like you said, to protect Mother Earth. But when you look at it, pollution doesn't see borders, right? You can't build a wall to keep pollution out. And when you look at the real perpetrators of environmental pollution and carbon dioxide emissions, they're coming from other countries. You know, you can't, before the coronavirus, you couldn't be in China and not walk around with a mask. I've been to Beijing and all of the many major metropolitan cities in the Far East. In India, you can't go in Mumbai or Delhi at certain times of the day without a mask, right? And so right now we have a very unfair playing field where countries like China and India, in particular China, have taken advantage of their status as an economy and an income in order to flex their regulations to grow their economy, whereas we've taken a more restrictive view of that. And so until we start to fight back, creating fair trade deals that happen, you know, it's going to be hard for us to take the lead on some of these that then good salt of the earth people like yourselves out there is trying to start a business, being a truck driver, trying to just, you know, make money to feed your family so you don't have to live paycheck to paycheck, are getting crushed to be made an example of, when the same token across the ocean, across the pond, you know, they don't have the same regulatory scheme.
And believe it or not, that's something that is unfair. Well, you mentioned this, you know, and this is something that our industry, independent drivers can, you know, congregate to talk about rates, but multinationals can go overseas, get their meetings overseas where there's no regulations over there, and bring it back over here and try to regulate everything in their ways. So this is the kind of situations that we face, Mr. Rick. Like I say, for all of you guys, if you have a question, make sure you give the questions. We're going to be reading your questions. Make sure you give articulated questions so we can read it loud over here. But this is the situation that we're facing. And unless you understand that we have to have a voice, and to have a voice, sometimes you have to look for the person qualifications, and a politician in this case, like Mr. Rick. There is understanding that, first of all, we are entrepreneurs. We are small businesses. We come from backgrounds where the majority are from different countries. There are minority groups. So we have everything against us. You know, we don't have the resources, economic resources, to even sustain organizations like the one that we have here. It's very hard to keep a building open, a door open, with people in there, because, you know, we understand the majority of these people are afraid of giving $5, $10, because you think they're going to be making somebody else rich. Why? Because we understand, because they come from different countries. You know, they come from over South America, Central America, where governments are crooked. And everything that they have in their background is they don't believe in politicians because everybody's crooked. And that, you know, and that's, unfortunately, that's the sad truth.
Well, it's true. And I want to comment on that because, you know, one of the things, you know, and I want to kind of clarify, right? Mm-hmm. You know, I represent as the face of the Republican Party. And oftentimes, similarly, you know, we get the same conversation about, well, you know, you don't represent us as business owners or entrepreneurs or middle class. It's actually the opposite. The things that I represent for my party and the core values, the things that, you know, even the president is trying to push, when you look at the policy and put aside the politics, you actually see a major accomplishments in economies. You see some of the lowest unemployment rates. And when you look at, you know, historically, when you look at the controls that Democrats have had over cities, they've actually driven some of those cities into poverty, increased poverty rates, you know, without creating opportunity. And to your point, a lot of us, we came from different countries. My father, like I said, you know, you talk about poverty in America, it's nothing like the poverty that you find in India, where you're literally living on the streets like animals sometimes. And so they came here for a better life, and he had to work and send money back to his parents. And so, you know, the last thing we want would be for us to go back to the home countries, because we escaped to come to build success, and America is the only country you can do that in. And I think oftentimes when you hear some of the rhetoric, some of the stories that are going on to create socialism, I have friends that come from Venezuela that escaped the socialist regimes, or Cuba. And, you know, and so they're saying, you know, why would you want that?
No, and that's the situation. And we want to make sure that you guys understand something. I know a lot of you guys have bad histories with governments in their countries. But we have to start changing our mentality. We have to start looking for politicians that want to come and help us out. Okay? Our voice is being neglected for many years. Nobody has listened to us for many years. Every day that we met with any truck driver, you or anybody else out there, Richie, we all hear one thing: something needs to change. Things need to change, but we need to come out and say, to those things to change, we need to get involved in politics, right, Mr. Rick?
Yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
only way that we can do that.
We have to be engaged, so to whatever someone feels comfortable to be engaged in, right? Just to understand what are the positions, right? Without just taking it for blanket value. What is it that people stand for? You know, who's in your office, who's running? Because to your point, you mentioned, you know, you may not have the opportunity to unionize, but that's why you have elected officials, and they should want to represent you. Good, salt of the earth people that are trying to make a living, you know, working to feed their family, and so they don't have to live paycheck to paycheck, you know, and raise their kids. You know, that's what I do. As I said, I have 3 boys. That's what I want to do.
No, and that's something that we have. Another question, Richie, right?
Oftentimes, a lot of truck drivers have to pay heavy taxes: road tax, fuel tax, registration for New Jersey. So, if you were elected senator of New Jersey, how would you lower taxes for truck drivers?
Let me tell you something right now. You can't breathe without getting taxed in the state of New Jersey. You know, I mean, honestly, they have a tax for anything. You know, we're probably getting taxed right now for talking. So,
Probably.
so here's the thing. I mean, right now, I strongly believe that we have to reduce the taxes because, again, whether it's fees and permitting fees paid by regulations or taxation, it's all the same. They're monies that's collected to go to the government to build out programs. So, again, if you're paying your money, just like when you buy something, you want to know what you bought. And that's the other reason people have to, especially those that are watching, you truck drivers, ask what you're buying. Ask what you're buying. You're paying the fees, you're paying the taxes. What did you buy? And how is it helping you? And until we start to reduce the burden that's created on middle class and low income families, we're never either going to break out of poverty or allow people to achieve success into the middle class. That's how we achieve success. And success for me, my father did cancer research for 30 years, but by no means was he rich, you know, but he fought hard, worked 2 jobs just like did my mother, and we were able to achieve middle class. And in fact, it wasn't until last year was he able to finally afford to build a garage for his cars, you know, a 2-car garage, you know. So that was his dream, that was his success. And, you know, as minorities and those that immigrated to this country for the first time, and I myself being a first generation, one of the biggest achievements for us is to own property, is to buy a house. And you can't do that in this state anymore. New Jersey, the property taxes are so high, it's almost like they're saying, well, hey, you know, unless you have historical or institutional money like, you know, our current governor does, you know, maybe buying a house isn't for you. Or what he specifically said is that if tax is your issue and you're a one-issue voter, then maybe New Jersey's not for you. Now, how insulting is that for those that live here, that pay taxes, that just want to raise their family? I was insulted, frankly. And that's why, and I'll just give you one more statistic. That's why 44% of New Jerseyans are thinking about moving out of New Jersey. And that's unacceptable. And that's the reason why I'm running for office.
Well, New Jersey was welcome for everybody that comes from New York. Now New York and New Jersey are just telling everybody goodbye because of these, you know, taxes, rent, and because of living in here. Yes, Mr. Richie, do you have another question?
So, Sebastian Salazar is asking, if we are so essential, why are we underpaid and mistreated?
Okay, good question. I'm going to have to answer that, so just to give you an idea. We are underpaid. If you're a company driver, you're underpaid because the industry is setting up these situations. Like I say, deregulation, for the people that don't understand, after Ronald Reagan, we have the deregulation, which is good. The problem is that deregulation is giving open doors for other things that have to be kind of regulated. We have too many mediators between our cargo and our money. And that can be fixed because we don't just work for a company that deals with a customer. We work with a broker, with a freight forwarders, and it's different things that we have to find a way to consolidate some of those things and just take the middleman out so the money comes to the people because everybody's paying for this.
Exactly.
Your family, his family, everybody's paying for this. So we're going to make sure about that situation. But once we have the opportunity, first we have to understand something. In order for us to give you good answers and good ways to find a solution for those questions, we have to have a representative that's willing to work with us. And Rick Mehta is here to give you the assurance that once he gets elected, if you support his campaign, he will give us the opportunity to sit down in a more structured way to explain what is our ideas that can help you achieve these changes and these questions to make sure that everybody understand how they can make some money and how we can help businesses from the trucking companies to the independent drivers and businesses to help company drivers also.
Exactly. You shouldn't have to pay fees into a group for you to feel like you have representation by your elected officials. You know, and one of the things I'll tell you right now with Mr. Booker, with Corey out there showboating and running for office for president while he was still senator, he missed the most number of votes out of any senator and any congressperson in Washington. He tops that list, 65% of the votes. That means he didn't do his job. Okay? So when you have an elected official, we should be there to serve you.
Exactly, and that's something that you gotta understand. We elect officials to come into office to serve us, regardless of who we are. They're there to help the majority, every people, regardless of color, race, or any class or ethnic class.
Exactly.
Roxana Camano's asking, for the emergency, assuming it's the coronavirus emergency, we don't want to pay for tolls when our truck drivers are trying to keep up with demand.
You know, that's interesting because you know what happened, right? When New Jersey, they actually increased the tolls on the turnpike. Can you believe that?
They increased it for truck drivers too, on the GW Bridge, Verrazano, and the Cuomo Bridge.
I think that's sad and disgusting, frankly. I'm disappointed to hear that during these trying times versus coming together, they're actually increasing the tolls for those that are putting their lives on the line. You know, I'm a health professional, so I see my friends that are doctors, nurses, others going into the hospital every day to fight for patients that might have the disease and to keep the machine running. At the same time, how are you going to even have the hospital operate if the truck drivers aren't able to ship supply? And now they're basically adding additional tax and tolls on you guys to make it even more arduous rather than saying, hey, you know what? We thank you, we appreciate you, and we respect what you do. This is exactly what I've been saying for the longest time. And you know who's doing that? It's the Democrats. And I hate to make it a party thing, but that's exactly who's in office right now. That's who is in power. So ask them. Call the governor. Call Cory Booker and ask him, why did our tolls go up when we're trying to make sure that supplies get to you in your hospital?
No, and the things that we are sadly have to inform, and this is for our drivers that come from other cities that do the local internal work. They come in to stay in Brooklyn and they've been towed away. This is something that we, you know, if anybody from government in New York or in New Jersey or in any state, we have regulations that right now are being taken away for into the emergency pass. Drivers are trying to look for an open space to sleep because we don't have way to get to a nice fancy hotel with our rigs. So, and we are afraid that somebody steal our cargo because we are responsible for anything that happens to those containers or trailers that we carry. So we don't want to leave that. We have to be the securities of our own merchandise. So that's why we stay in the trucks. But sometimes we are tired. And it's, you know, it's sad that we have to go to Brooklyn, wait to in the morning appointment, and instead of having a chance to sleep, we have to wake up in the middle of the night with a towing truck coming out and the police next to giving us a ticket for illegally parking in the streets in this moment. Right. And I have already on Facebook with that. So if you have any officials in there, please let us know. And like I say, that's a good question, Mr. Ritchie. Go ahead.
So a lot of truck drivers who drive in and out of the Northeast region, they often come across a problem where they can't find a rest area to take a 10-hour break. According to the hours of service laws, we have to take a 10-hour break after driving 11 hours. So if you were elected senator, how would you solve the problem of a lack of trucking space?
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing, right? It's all part and parcel of the same package that you, as truck drivers, have been underrepresented for such a long time by your elected officials. So we have to have these town halls to talk about ways in which we can do that so that we can have proper breaks, proper rest, and proper treatment of truck drivers so that they can accomplish their goals. I mean, at the end of the day, I think people don't understand that but for the truck drivers. Now, you know, if anything, the coronavirus has shown the significant importance and shined a light on all the hard work that you guys have done for so long, all the guys and gals that work in this industry that are doing, because, you know, like I said, I mean, how have a hospital function if the supplies aren't getting to them. So we have to talk about these issues. We have to air them out. We have to bring it to the table and discuss solutions collectively. And again, I'd encourage all of your viewers and constituents, representatives, all the truck drivers that are out there listening in, get part of the solution. You know, get involved and engage in politics and listen and see what's going on and who's doing the what, you know, rather than a blanket, acceptance of the current parties. And I'll tell you right now, that's exactly what myself and the Republican Party is doing. We're trying to fix these mess that's been made.
And this is something that we agree, we are being neglected. That's the right word. In the trucking industry period is being neglected for years, and we're paying the price right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're paying the price because if our industry was healthy and it was well taken care, we wouldn't have all the issues that we have right now with transportation, where everybody's looking for drivers. The companies, truck drivers is hard to find nowadays, and it's been happening for almost years now. We have a shortage of drivers where we have an economy that's looking for ways to open new jobs. The truck industry is one of the middle class jobs available right there, where you work for one of these new multinationals in the food market. You can get a job up to $80,000. Okay, so but there's restrictions in how we do these things and how we help persons to come into these fields. The help is not there. We can, if you want to become a truck driver, and you want to apply before your employment will help you get not anymore. So this is the kind of things that we need to address. We need to tell the people, listen, we want to create new jobs. We have good jobs. We have good paying jobs. They are available, but nobody's seeing it because nobody's talking about it. Nobody's pressing any attention. Nobody's bringing into the table all the good things about being a truck driver. They're always talking about the bad things. Why? Because, again, we don't have a representation. Everybody's crazy about working inside the unions, inside the ports. Everybody will kill to work in there because they feel they can get better benefits than that, but they don't see us. And we work in there with them. So how is that possible that we, the ones that provide the jobs for the Germans that work in the poor area, have more access to different things than we do?
Yeah, and I don't look at it as different sides. I look at it as all collective about the same pie, right? You need them, they need you. Right? It's the yin and the yang of accomplishing your job. And the only difference here is the lack of the ability to unionize, like you said, because of antitrust laws, because each truck driver is an independent owner and a small business owner.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I find interesting, and that's why I would encourage all the truck drivers to look at themselves as small business owners and get involved in the political process and reach out to my campaign, reach out to others to learn more about that. We should be encouraging more people to be entrepreneurs and small business owners. Like I said, that was the foundation of our entire country, and certainly the foundation of New Jersey, as one of the beacons of immigration for many of us that came here as immigrants. So I think that's critical.
And believe it or not, this is one of for the people that don't understand the trucking industry, the independent drivers, the majority of people that serve in the Navy, Army, and all our forces have come back and they feel comfortable of becoming truck drivers. So they love to be truck drivers because they feel the independency. They don't like to be having a boss, and they have that opportunity. And this is the kind of things that we are an association are fighting, because we don't want to be reclassified. We want to continue giving the opportunity to, what you say, the dream of the American dream, have the ability to create a small business, something that can provide for your family, something that can give you the ability to become a middle-class person, okay, without having to do anything wrong. And it's a lot of people that are out there watching, they are not just poor drivers, because we have different groups from the middle and the central of the United States that feel left out. Because now all these new regulations, these new laws, these reclassification laws are trying to push us through.
It's almost like you want to be a truck driver, you have to be a lawyer first, just to figure this out. And that's sad, and that's why you need, someone like me who can not only fight to reduce the complexity, get rid of the complexity, and allow for people to achieve the American dream. And you can do it without having to compromise the intended goals. Right now we have so many redundancies. But we have elected officials that don't want to spend the time to do the hard work.
And this is the thing that I hope that you can help us. In these moments, there's a lot of things in our agenda. Okay, and I know that a lot of you guys are going to continue saying, why you didn't talk about this, why you didn't talk about that, because we have to fight one war at a time. And the war that I think we all fighting right now, this COVID-19, and we got to make sure that we have a healthy, I believe is the right word to say it, outcome. And how is a healthy outcome? I give you an essential example, right? Say for instance, all truck drivers feel that they have an immune system that can take everything because we're always outside. Maybe we do. For some reason we are always outside, so we encounter a lot of different kind of viruses in our entire life because the amount of time that we spend over the highways and the streets. But our family don't have that. So maybe we are a little more strong, and when we come home, we bring that with us. We never know. Nobody knows how this virus really works. And if our family gets sick, now we have to stay in stay this, keep ourselves also in a quarantine. So what's going to happen with these families when they have no safety net behind? And I'm sorry for being redundant in this situation. I just want to make sure the people that are out there understand the severity of this situation.
Well, let me ask you this, and maybe I have a question for you now, because I think we might have some viewers that are calling in that don't know much about the trucking industry. Could you talk a little bit about the day in the life of a truck driver right now under this coronavirus, under COVID-19? What is going on with it?
Well,
what are the dangers? What are they being exposed to, and what kind of safety nets do they have, if any?
Well, we don't have any safety nets. Okay, it's not an organization established to keep saying a fund to help families in stress in case they need it. So if anybody of these independent drivers feel sick, cannot go on unemployment.
So it's coming out of their own pocket.
So they have to take care of everything, themselves, because that's what an independent.
Has the state come in to help at all?
I don't want to say they do or they don't, because the things that I've been finding out, remember, this is a small organization, okay? We don't have enough resources to have a person running all over the place. We try to get all the information ourselves. And so far, with the information that I have, with the grants and the loans that they're giving, because they are not giving grants, they're giving loans, small rates, where we're going to be having somebody from this organization, which is a non-profit organization, come to talk about these loans for companies. If you have a trucking company, you're going to love to hear these things because you may qualify for these loans of low cost. But for the independent drivers, there's nothing out there. There's nothing that you can utilize right now. Until they come out with a grant, we can qualify for anything. Number one, we have to have good credit. The majority of drivers, we've been feeling the stress since day one. A lot of people say, oh, but this coronavirus just happened 2 weeks ago. No, ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand something. We move the world. So whatever happened in China happens over here with the independent drivers first in the ports. Why? Because we help all the world move. If the world stop moving, we are the first ones to feel it because our ports get empty. So we were the first ones that went into this battle with this COVID-19 in the United States. Not because we were in direct contact with it, because we felt the economy coming to us. And we've been having a shortage of work for almost 2 months, more than 2 months, since day one of this virus again. So the second thing is our drivers are feel neglected because even though, and I gotta say, the port authorities been help us telling you, each terminal is taking special precautions to help the drivers. Within the terminals, they don't have bathrooms for the drivers for safety issues that we don't want to talk about it. It's just no bathrooms properly adequated with soap and water for the drivers. They have portables.
Yeah.
So imagine a driver goes up to, they say the transactions in the port is about from 2,500 to 3,500 and they go higher depending. So that means that the same driver is coming back and going in. And they have only a couple of facilities, portable facilities. Do you really want to use that facility there?
So I'll tell you right now, that brings up another point. And one thing that, maybe it's important for the listeners to understand is that New Jersey pays the most in taxes and gets the least back from the federal government. And the reason I mention this is because when it comes to federal grants, like you mentioned, New Jersey gets the least amount. And when we're talking about the Port Elizabeth is very unique. We have the tunnels that go to New York, right? What is our infrastructure? And right now, our senators are not fighting to bring federal dollars to fix our infrastructure, and it trickles down to basic things, right? The ports, having bathrooms. This, when we're talking about overall infrastructure, we need to make sure that we have good highways and systems in place for transport and distribution, right? Because I think the end of it is you guys feel it. And so that's the other reason why you need an elected official who can go to Washington and fight for those things that matter to the average person that's trying to raise a family. And the bigger scheme may be, okay, a federal funding grant that helps to fix infrastructure, bring federal dollars to help us fix infrastructure. But the heart of it is what it means to you, what it means to the truck driver, what it means to the small business owner.
I give you an idea. In the last years, the Port Authority spent almost $3 billion in infrastructure for all the terminals. So we can have rails and technology up to date, machines, and a whole bunch of grants that they given to update machines for pollution. But they haven't created not even one restroom, new facility for truck drivers in the port area, inside the port area, to go wash their hands. Not even one. The one that works is neglected. You didn't even want to go there before the COVID-19. Now you are sure that nobody want to go there. So this is the kind of lack of representation we have. With all those billions of dollars that have been imposed to create wealth, because that's what they do. Once you create this, it's supposed to help the economy and everything else. Have the chance to put a bathroom will be something that everybody will love to, right? But they haven't done that.
And that's because, again, what I'm hearing is that the truckers themselves, who are the heart of these operations, get neglected.
Oh yeah, big time. And I think that I don't speak in my behalf only, and I know you guys out there have a lot of questions. This is the time for you guys to come out. You always complain that nobody hears, that nobody has the opportunity to spend some time with our voices. Yeah, the idea that we have these programs that I do with different people that come in here is for you drivers that never have the chance to come out to have that chance with us. Because if your voice doesn't get heard, okay, people like Mr. Rick, who has the time to come in this time of emergency, to listen to our question, not demands, to our questions of how we're going to take care of ourselves in case something happens, never going to be heard by anybody else. So you have the opportunity tonight to say, listen, I have a family that depends on me. And I have a case that I want to tell you about that. I have a gentleman, I don't want to say the name, but he have a family, he have a house. So remember I told you we've been suffering from day one. Unfortunately, his stroke broke down and he got into a depression point where he almost killed himself. Okay, because the stress was so tremendous. He didn't have money to take care of his family. He didn't have money to fix his stroke. He lost his job. So it was so much, and this is the kind of stress that's going to go through a lot of people. And I went, again, back to other years ago where I see those kind of people where we didn't have chances to get to healthcare because the amount of money, somebody told me, well, we have Obama healthcare, but a lot of people don't know that healthcare, you have to pay the first $60,000 of deductible.
It's not affordable. They call it the Affordable Care Act, but we can say that for a different
no,
episode.
but this is the kind of situation,
yeah.
But this is the reality. But a lot of the misinformation that's out there affects all the independent drivers, and this is something that you guys have to understand. I'm not here trying to be like some people say that we're trying to look for shiny moment to come and be more like a star. We're here because we need to tell everybody, it's time to have a voice. It's time to get behind somebody that can represent it. Somebody that at least took the time to come over here, okay, you have pretty sure that you have different places that you could be, but you decide to come, and when our moment that we call you for help, you say, listen, I'm going to go there. I'm going to talk to you guys because I believe that you guys need some kind of representation. If I'm getting power to have that, I will help you. And that's what you hear, right? And I want to say thank you. And drivers, if you're there listening, I want to make sure that you understand one thing. Mr. Rick Mehta is here because he wants to help us. Okay? I don't know how you guys understand what we're trying to do here, but we need to come out. We need to support politicians that want to give us a hand. The ones that want to come and meet with us. Remember, I've been doing this for more than 20 years. Okay, and I told you that before. And it's the first time that a politician took the time to come and sit down to hear at least hear a little bit of our problems, just a little bit, because like I said, we can be here all night talking about all the issues that we have, and we're gonna need a whole week, and we're still gonna be enough time.
But this is the first start, right?
Oh,
this
yeah.
is the start, and I can guarantee we can come back and do more of these episodes and talk about it. But the first step is hearing the problems, hearing the issues, and like I said, I mean, right now it's such an unprecedented, trying time that we're going through with the coronavirus, and so. If anything, I'm honored to be here while you guys do your bravery to make sure that, shipments are fulfilled, so that we can keep some kind of normalcy in our lives, being able to go to the store and having our shelves stocked.
And like I said, Mr.
Take that for granted.
No, and I hope you guys remember that when we ask you in the next couple of months, once this storm is gone, I hope it goes fast, believe me, for the benefit of all of us. I hope that this thing can be taken care of. You guys stay home if you don't have to. Listen to the authorities out there. This is not a joke. We truck drivers would love to stay home. Believe me, there's a lot of independent drivers that would love to stay home, but we can't stay home. Not because we just need money, because we know that we have to keep the economy going, at least keep our supplies moving. So we want to make sure that we are out there. With you, if you don't have to be in the road, stay home. Don't go out to the parks. I see a lot of kids going in the park. So I just want to say, I'll take a moment to tell the parents of these kids, listen, keep your kids inside the home. The reason they are not in school is because they don't have to be out there. They want to make sure stay home. Mr. Richard, you have a question right here.
Concerning the Second Amendment right, do you support truck drivers being armed while driving cross country?
Absolutely. I think it's critical. I think the safety of the truck driver should come first. And look, when you say Second Amendment, that's built into our Constitution. We shouldn't even be having this question, yet we do, because there's too many politicians who forget that we actually have a Constitution. And as a law professor, as a constitutionalist, I believe in our Second Amendment rights, but more importantly, I believe in making sure that people can protect themselves and feel safe. And I'll tell you right now, that's one of the reasons why we need a federalized system that protects people's right to carry from state to state, especially truck drivers that are crossing state lines. I think that's critical, and they shouldn't feel like they're doing something wrong because they're trying to follow their constitutional rights.
Did that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
See, guys, all these things need to be addressed, and all these things we're trying to address it in the future. But in order for these things to come to Washington, to Trenton, they need to be we need to have a representative that can help us do that. Mr. Rick Nett is here, okay? And he's here because he cares about small businesses, period. Regardless if you own a trucking company, regardless if you own one truck, he's still here for you guys. And I believe very strongly that he's going to keep his word. He's going to give us the opportunity, he gets elected, to be in Congress, talking about our issues, talking about the things that matter to us, and at least give us the opportunity to sit down with him in the future to talk about creating a plan that comes from the roots of the transportation, not from the people that are sitting in a chair in the 10th floor where they see all the trucks in the window. We need to have some answers from the people that are driving the
people that are looking out their window at the street,
Exactly. And that's something that we want to make sure.
Recently, the Democrats were attempting to reclassify owner-operators as employees. What do you think about that?
Absolute disaster. You don't even need to finish your question for me to. What's going to happen? Independent truck drivers. We talked about regulation as a form of taxation. We talked about taxing and the current state of how many high taxes they are. Creating an employee program is going to create so many additional mandates that a small business already has to struggle through. It's going to crush the industry. It's going to crush small business owners. So I think, look, while at the end of the day it's a state issue, and while I'm running for federal office, I can tell you right now as a small business owner, I think it's going to be devastating. And these are the types of programs that we need to stop in order to make sure that small business owners have the ability to be successful and live the American dream. We don't want to over-regulate them from being able to achieve the American dream.
And that's something that you guys, I know a lot of you guys don't understand what is this reclassification. We've been talking about this. It's an issue that's still open, believe it or not, in Trenton up to now. I hear a lot of people saying, no, it's already didn't pass, it's not going to pass, or it's already gone. Believe it or not, it's still in Trenton. Unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to finish with this issue, but it's still alive. So you guys are thinking that this is not going to happen, but think again. Richie.
A lot of us drivers are in the business of import and export. What do you think about global trade and the tariffs on China?
Well, as I said before, we have a president that's supporting and putting the pressure back on China, especially after this coronavirus issue. We got to make sure that we level the playing field. That's how I feel. I mean, I think we need fair trade deals. At the end of the day, we live in a globalized world. Now, I've always pushed for more manufacturing to happen back in the United States. I'll tell you that right now. And we see that right now, especially with our medical supply. We see that the same drugs that could potentially save our lives with the coronavirus, they're being manufactured in China, right? And I've been beating my drum. In fact, just published an article earlier this week or last week about the fact that we've lost our pharmaceutical manufacturing. And the price of drugs have gone up, and yet 80% of it's made in China. So how does that make sense? And I'll tell you right now, until we bring our manufacturing jobs back home, back to New Jersey where they used to be, until we level the playing field for countries that devaluate their currency in order to take advantage of the economy, that have loose regulations compared to our very stringent regulations that crush our small businesses, our truck drivers, until we start to do that, now we have a president that's fighting for it, and when I get to the United States Senate, I'll be fighting for the same things. Bring our jobs back to America.
And that's something that we all understand, and now we all feeling the consequences of not having that. Even though it will affect our industry, but I also have to agree with you. We think we have to create more industries in the United States. We have to bring some of the industries back. I think that's a process that everybody is going to be, everybody that has been affected understand why. And like I say, Mr. Rick, like everything that is good always come to an end. This is not different. Mr. Rick, any other words that you would like to say now before we end this program?
Has it been an hour already?
Believe it or not, this flies, and I tell everybody, make sure that this thing carry out and ask questions because time flies.
Yeah. Well, look, let me just say in closing, thank you again for having me. To all the truck drivers, distribution moves, and making sure that our shelves are stocked. We thank you, we appreciate you, and we respect all your hard work. And this is just the start of the conversations. Reach out to my campaign. Go to rickfornj, RIKFORNJ.com, or go to Jersey Proud. I forgot to tell you, that's my campaign slogan because I'm proud of being in New Jersey. So go to jerseyproud.com and you'll find me, and you'll find my 3 little kids and my wife. We, like you, small business owners, we work hard to make it make our life here in New Jersey, and we got to fight for the taxes, the regulations, and the right political people, the right elected officials that are going to fight for you. So thank you again, Edison, for having me.
Mr. Rick, thank you. And I just want to say something to my fellow drivers. For years, actually decades, we've been trying to create a way to pass our voice, to let our voices be heard. It hasn't been an easy task. It's really hard to create moments like this. It's not that often that somebody is willing to come to our office and give us the time of the day. But to all of you that are out there, all I want to say is please make sure to get involved with an organization. Make sure that you go to www.prodriverassociation.com. Make sure that you register there. If you want your voice to be heard, if you want people like Mr. Rick to come back to our show, or more people that can help us to be here explaining to you how they can help you, make sure that you give us your support, and make sure that you stay out there, making sure you stay safe. Stay safe. We all are taking risks every day, and we all have families, and we know how hard it is to stay home. And I understand that, Mr. Rick understands that. And we're going to keep doing everything we can to make sure that we create a safety net for all of us. They are working really hard in the transportation industry. One more time, Mr. Rick, thank you for being here. Guys, Richie, thank you for helping us with the questions. And everybody else, good night.
Thank you.